everyone to this evening's regular meeting of Town Council for the Town of Ladysmith for December 17th. Our first thing is to acknowledge that the Town of Ladysmith acknowledges with gratitude that this meeting takes place on the unceded territory of the Staminas First Nation. Takes us now to approve agenda approval. I believe we have some additions, Mrs. Boma.
Yes, Madam Mayor, there have been 2 late agenda item memos circulated to Council since the publication of the agenda. The first memo added items 8.1.7 and 8.1.8, which is the adoption of bylaws number 2170 and 2171. The second memo circulated was to add public submissions related to item 5.2, and that was for the DVP and the development variance permit and the development permit for Rolly Rose Drive. The late agenda items were posted on the website and hard copies are available at this meeting as well.
Thank you. Okay, do we have someone to move the agenda as with the new additions? We've got Councillor Jacobson, seconded by Councillor Stevens. All in favor? None opposed, motion carries. We'll move on now to our rise and report items, but there are none, so that takes us to minutes. 4.1, that Council approved the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held December 3rd, 2024. Someone to move. Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Stevens. Comment? Go ahead, Councillor Jacobson.
I'm sorry, I'm just getting organized here, but wasn't there a date issue with the date that what was going to be accepted for the, oh no, that's for the special meeting. Sorry, my apologies.
Okay. Any other further comments? Nope, that's okay. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Now moving on to the minutes of the special meeting of Council. The recommendation is that Council approve the minutes of the special meeting of Council held December 11th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Vertanen. Did you have something to add to this one, Councillor Jacobson?
Yep, through to staff, just was that date is the actual correct date?
Thank you for noticing that. That needs to be corrected, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, yes, under item
the correction
3.2, the item 3.2 at the very end, our Chief Election Officer misquoted the date that we would start accepting the completed packages. So we will correct that in the minutes if you'd like to accept them as amended.
As amended. Good catch, Councillor Jacobson. Seconded or moved as after the amendment, seconded by Councillor Vertanen. I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Well done, Councillor Jacobson. Nice catch. Well done, you. We're off to a great start. Moving on to development application. A lot of reading for me tonight. I've got my water, so please be patient if I stumble and fall all over myself or get lost or get hoarse in the voice. You'll understand why. So this is regarding a roundabout condition on 1130 Rocky Creek Road, and the recommendations to Council are as follows. Number 1, consider the request to amend Covenant CB 215820, registered on title of 1130 Rocky Creek Road, and direct staff to A, proceed with scheduling and notification of a public hearing pursuant to section 4641 of the Local Government Act, and B, formally refer the proposal to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. Number 2, require that as a condition of the approval of the request to amend Covenant CB 215820, the following conditions be secured through a covenant also to be amended to A, prohibit access from Ludlow Road and limit egress from the site to a single right out only until the roundabout is constructed. B, require the construction of a temporary median on Ludlow Road. C, require cash in lieu of frontage improvements along Ludlow Road and Rocky Creek Road at time of building permit issuance. D, require the provision of a temporary gravel pathway along the frontage of the property as shown in proposed development permit 3060-24-20. E, require a provision of no left turn signs in the Ludlow Road right of way to prevent left hand turn exiting from 1010 Ludlow Road, and F, require no U-turn signs to be installed at Ludlow and Rocky Creek Road intersection. 3, issue development variance permit 30902408, and 4, issue development permit 30602420. And I believe that's it. Is that correct? Okay. Are you moving? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Bertanen. And I will take speakers. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. It's Christmas time, so I'll start with something positive. I really enjoyed reading the stormwater guidelines. I don't know how a property that's concrete pavement and roofs is going to adhere to it, but I really enjoyed that. I voted, I think with one exception around the phasing, against every aspect of this project, and I'll be doing so again tonight. I was asked once by a colleague what I dislike about this proposal, and my reply to keep it short was everything. And I think when I said everything, I meant everything. They had literally in their initial submission said that in a housing crisis, they couldn't see a market for a housing component in this. And I'm like, you lost me already, but you really lost me now. And then everything got added to a phasing that they wanted to do, where they were going to come back and put a construction fence around phase 2, the better part of the project, and delay it, put signs up around it, advertising potential like Ricky Bobby's stock car or something like that. So it hasn't been, in my estimation, a project that Ladysmith needs, wants, or should have. But this particular situation, I think, is just kind of beyond the pale. They could have been in the ground in 2022 when the price of this roundabout was more reasonable. They got $1 million worth of DCCs coming at them. They've got latecomer fees that could pay them back, and they're saying, how about this engineered solution that will have people at a functioning hub of activity hardware store do 2 lefts and 3 rights to get back where they wanted to be in the first place. They've triggered this. This roundabout is something that should be built now if they want to build this. If they want to cut and run, let them cut and run. The fact is, if you're in the business of strip mall development and you haven't got the capital to build a, oh, sorry, my kids are home. If you haven't got the capital to build a strip mall and you haven't got the capital to cover the offsite costs until such time as you get paid back your latecomer fees, get out of the business. But don't expect the taxpayers of Ladysmith to put off another infrastructure project so that you can sit there and let other people come along, build this roundabout, pay no latecomer fees in all likelihood, and run your business, make your profit, or skedaddle, or whatever you do. This is, the letter from the proponent is maddening to me. They're trying to throw us under the bus. As I say, they could be building. They could be done by now. And they could have paid for a much cheaper roundabout. So I have no sympathy for them. And here we are. So shocking. I'm voting against it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Councillor Jacobson had it.
Oh, sorry, Jacobson then.
Okay, thank you. Just really quickly through to staff, has it been discussed with the proponent possibly rearranging the configuration of the buildings within the site plan to maybe what I'm thinking is if they put the and I know this is just drawing, so maybe it's not how it's actually going to shake out, but if they moved the drive-through business over towards where the Dollarama is, and I'm sorry, this doesn't have a page number on it. It's just one of the drawings from urban something group. Sorry, apparently I need to store a prescription. Anyways, I'm just wondering if they could move the things around to sort of improve the traffic flow coming in and out, and maybe instead of putting it right back out onto Ludlow, they could move it onto Rocky Creek Road.
Through to staff for comment.
Through the chair, the developer didn't advance any sort of changes to the design. We're not necessarily convinced that that would add additional functionality. Basically, traffic has to come in and out, and probably at least two accesses are needed. So there would be new sets of challenges by having the accesses, both access and egresses, onto Ludlow Road. There would be a different set of challenges that we would have to review and address.
Follow up.
I completely appreciate that. Thank you. What I'm thinking though is rather than somebody coming out of the drive-through and pushing them back onto Ludlow to get back onto the highway, they might be more inclined to choose to go down Rocky Creek Road and take the second exit on the highway down towards, is it Malamos Road? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Anyways, that was just one of the thoughts that I had.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Patterson now.
Thank you. A question and then a couple of comments. Going through this ream of paper, where a good 80% of it is so small that I couldn't read it anyways. But there, where is it here? Require the provision of a temporary gravel path road along the frontage. Which road is the frontage road?
Through the chair, it would be both. So if you look on the site plan in Schedule A of the DP,
Can you give me a page number?
I'm afraid I'm using the digital agenda, so it doesn't have page numbers. But essentially, there would be a gravel path fronting both frontages along Rocky Creek Road and Ludlow Road, and then connecting to, I believe there's some existing sidewalk on Ludlow Road. So there would be a frontage path along both.
Go ahead.
Okay, can I do this? There's Ludlow or Ludlow and Rocky Creek. So you're talking about gravel pathway up here and then up there. I don't believe there's a sidewalk on the north side of Ludlow. On the Home Hardware side, there is.
Through the chair, the plans do show a sidewalk. The intention there might actually be, because that's far enough away from the roundabout, they would then just be able to install the permanent sidewalk. If not, there's enough flexibility in the development permit in this circumstance where we could have a temporary solution in place.
Oh, could I just make a comment?
Go ahead.
I've been asked many times what is going on with this proposed development. Why is it being held up? When is it going to start? In my opinion, and I think opinion of a lot of people in the community, are looking forward to it. It's a great addition to the entranceway to the community, and there is employment, not the largest, not high-tech employment, etc., but there is employment, and I hopefully see that there will be additions and then maybe has some residential added to it. So in my opinion, it does fit. It's close to transit. It's close to town. It will bring more people stopping here. I think it's a fit, and the colors are, I'd like to see a little bit more lively, but I do not see a single thing wrong with it.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Bertanen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. A question and a comment. When this originally came to us, the roundabout, was that thought of as a necessary thing or a preferred option
Through to staff.
from staff's point of view?
Through the chair, it's not legally required. However, engineering did express concerns about traffic safety by having the lack of a roundabout. You'll see the diagram in the report of that was contained within the original report, where you had sort of left turns coming out of Home Hardware, left turns coming out of the subject property, right turns coming out of the subject property, potential U-turns in the intersection. So the concern from engineering was that the particular traffic configuration, if left unaltered, would cause a lot of either illegal or unsafe turns from drivers, which would lead to traffic collisions and potential traffic flow issues. So that was the original reason for the recommendation to implement the roundabout as a solution.
Carry on.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you for that. Do you know Dickinson's Crossing Mall in Nanaimo? On the other, Woodgrove Mall, just on the other side there, Pro Basin, you know that? I've got a feeling that, don't quote me, but I think that's almost the exact configuration of this, isn't it? And that's a super busy place in Nanaimo, and if that place if it works for there, then I kind of tells me that it could work from here. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Patterson. I think it's a much needed development there. I get a lot of questions as well from people about, when this is going to go. I can't say I 100% disagree with Councillor Stevens either, but things do change. And I think as part of our job is to be able to pivot sometimes when needed to be. So this might not be the perfect scenario for this. I don't think it's the worst. So as of right now, I'm going to support this recommendation.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Gurley.
Thank you. Through to staff. If this doesn't trigger the roundabout and this developer doesn't pay for the roundabout, what will trigger the roundabout and how do we pay for it?
Through to staff.
Through the chair, as it stands now, the roundabout is a DCC project, so there is money allocated for that. So money can be taken from the DCC road reserve to pay for it. The council has approved a budget program thus far for redoing our DCC bylaw in 2025. That could increase, that has the potential to increase the amount that could be allocated for the roundabout. Although that money would still have to be collected over time through DCCs. In terms of the trigger, essentially it's activities that would generate traffic. So at some point, the traffic need or traffic patterns would cause the roundabout to be needed. The obvious one is the waterfront area plan implementation and development of that area. However, other examples could be major redevelopments of in the same area on any property in the area that would use that road network.
And then it wouldn't be up to a developer to build it. It would just be a town project with DCC funds.
If it came to a scenario where another developer came in and was doing a development that would trigger the need for the roundabout, the council would have to make that decision as to whether to require that developer to contribute or construct the roundabout. In terms of the waterfront area plan, it would depend on how the town executes that plan. If the town liquidates land and other developers come in and develop it, a taxation program could be put in place to build the roundabout or certain requirements or covenants, or the town could choose it to build it ourselves if the money is available.
Sorry. We've gone around once, and I'd like to chime in just with a few comments, if that's okay at this point. We've had more than one traffic study done on this location. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And I completely agree that we need a traffic circle there. There's no question. I feel as though at this point, and the overall cost of a traffic circle, unfortunately, as pointed out by Councillor Stevens, has gone through the roof, as has the cost of everything. However, that doesn't diminish the need for it for the town. Is the Rocky Creek development that's happening at the very end of Rocky Creek, is it expected to add a considerable volume? It seemed logically to me that it would, anyone heading south or heading to town?
Through the chair, yes, any development that has parking and where vehicles would park would cause traffic to be generated. The metrics for residential traffic generation are different than commercial traffic generation. So I believe it is fewer trips for residential, and there's also tends to be a bit more of a timing difference with residential uses. So in basically different land uses have different traffic impacts. And that was considered when that proposal was reviewed as well by the engineering department.
Thank you. I guess where I sit on it right now is I'd like to see the project go through. I'd like to see that land put to good use, and for us to have more services. I'd like to have more storefronts available for businesses to have options for. I think that's critically needed in our town. I would also like to see a mechanism in place where we can be systematically really adding to the pot that's needed to build that roundabout. I think that needs to be a bit of a priority for us, and I think that it's and I recognize that if a big development was to come in around residential and or something was to come in, that would perhaps change the landscape. But I think it's definitely a priority that we find a way to do the roundabout. And I would also be in favor of perhaps requiring the developer for this project to pitch something in, some amounts to specifically for the roundabout, perhaps not the way it's been put in the past, which is to pay for the whole thing, but some responsibility to chip in and to contribute to it, as all of them should be, in fact. But anyway, I'll leave it at that right now, and I'll move on to the second go around for speakers. I'll start with Councillor Jacobson, then Councillor Stevens, then Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. So I think the quick answer to Councillor Gourlay's question of who's going to pay, someone other than this developer. Everyone in for. Oh, sorry.
Okay, my question was actually very similar to what you've already addressed and what Acting Mayor Mackay addressed, is that it would be good to see sort of potential DCCs that we might be getting in from other areas as well in development. Do we happen to have those numbers handy?
Through to staff.
Through the chair, we collect DCCs for single-family development at the subdivision stage, and and then all other DCCs are collected at the building permit stage. So there really is no way to predict the value of DCCs that are coming in. Only the value of DCCs that we actually collect. That's correct. So we could tell you how many the value of DCCs we've collected this year and what accounts they get allocated to, but we wouldn't be able to do a predictive analysis other than to look at projects that have received preliminary permits, like development permits, which would not be productive because it wouldn't predict when that money would go.
I see. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Stevens.
Would you like to interrupt me? I'll be fine. No. I was playing payback. Give you a chance. I think one of the primary people who will pay, or entities that will pay for this, is development in the waterfront plan. Is if this developer isn't going to pay their fair share. Just a few passages from their rationale letter. The cost of the roundabout is increased from $1.35 million to $2.64 or $2.62 million. That 2.26 or 62 million is not a vetted figure. It's engineers they hired. The real figure that we have a Class A estimate from 2022, when they could have been building, was 1.7 million. $1 million of which would have come from DCCs. So they were in it for 700,000. They chose to drag their feet and not contribute 700,000 at that point. Most, if not all of which, they would get back in latecomer fees over time from other development around. So I really think we're being played here. They're going to make it where they get away scot-free. They're going to build their development. Everyone's going to complain about the new and not improved exit out of Home Hardware. And at the end of the day, the roundabout is going to get built and paid for by someone else. And this developer will be long gone. We'll be sitting with franchises. And maybe a phase two for that, as I say, which is the better part of this whole development. So the construction cost of the roundabout is too expensive to proceed with our project. Again, if you're in this business, have the money to be in this business. If we can't proceed with our project because of the roundabout costs, the town will lose both the project and its economic benefits. As I recall, they accounted for $70,000 in property taxes. So 69% of total taxation coming in. How long does it take to pay back $700,000 or $1 million out of taxation that we're going to have to make up because they didn't pay their fair share for this? So if they can't proceed, they can't proceed. I would fully vote for kicking this back to staff and see if they want to have a come to Jesus moment and pay their fair share. But I simply can't support it because we're getting played and we're letting them off their responsibility. They're leaving with no responsibility. Mayor Mackay makes a good point that they should put something into this. I'd say if they want to do it, they should pay their share. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor. My understanding from correspondence and this going back and forth for many, many years is that highways said at this point in time that the roundabout is not necessary. And so, yes, maybe down the road it might be necessary to put a roundabout there. My concern would be the heavy industrial traffic that's leaving the mills, and you get a loaded lumber truck coming up, having to slow down for the roundabout and then going west and trying to go up that small incline. Talking to some truck drivers, they just don't think it's going to work, but they're truck drivers, not engineers. Another thing is the biggest push for the roundabout will be the development of the waterfront, and that's town development. And we should be preparing for that in our plans for the waterfront and how we are going to recoup the funding for the roundabout. I don't disagree that everybody is the question for staff. Are the people doing the I'm going to call it the old mobile home park, are they paying DCCs towards the roundabout?
Through to Director Belababa.
Through the chair, every developer in town will be technically paying DCCs towards the roundabout. Each DCC is broken down into a number of different infrastructural components: roads, water, sewer, and so on. So a portion of all DCCs goes to roads and to the roads account, and then the money in that account can be put towards the roundabout, which is a DCC project, to a maximum of $990,000. So there is a cap. At this juncture, there is money in the account to pay that $990,000, but it's capped at that amount and can't be increased without changing the DCC program.
And that's what we're looking at later on this year because of rising costs, etc.
That's correct, and that is not a brief process. That's usually a 2 to 3 year process. So we're initiating it this year, but it will take a very long time to change that program.
So can I continue?
One more. Go ahead.
I have 4. Okay.
It's not needed. Carry
this
on.
developer is paying DCCs for roads on this project.
Through the chair, as it stands now, if the project were to proceed without the removal of the roundabout condition, the developer would not pay DCCs for roads because they'd receive a credit for that amount. So the portion of DCCs that would go towards roads would be deducted from the DCCs they have to pay.
Okay, if we're going to hope, maybe we'll do a third round.
No, I was about to suggest that I think everyone's made their mind up. I suggest that we would be actually ready to take the vote at this point, if you're okay with that. Go ahead, Councillor Jacobson.
Sorry, I was actually going to move one of the alternatives, if that's or do you want to call the question first?
Do we defeat the motion if somebody has an alternative?
Sorry, that would be the best way to handle it.
Okay, can we find out what the alternate is that is being suggested? Go ahead, what alternate would you suggest?
It would be alternative 2, which is defer consideration of the request and refer the proposal to a subsequent meeting of council. And I am just hoping that perhaps we can get a more current quote for the cost. I think the cost may have changed and it may even change in the future.
To what end? To what end would we need to know more on the cost?
I'm curious if 2.6 million is still the cost, or if the cost could have come down from 2023.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Because she wishes to make a motion to defer, we don't have to defeat the first. So we could just go ahead and do a motion to defer and have it seconded and then take a vote on that.
Okay. Is there a seconder to take a motion to defer? We need a seconder?
Yes.
Is there a seconder to defer? I'll second. Councillor Stevens seconds. So this, I'll call the question. This is on deferring the motion. And if this defeats, then we'll go back to the original motion. Everyone okay to call the question? Okay, so calling the question to defer the motion to a future meeting. All in favor? Opposed? And a tie goes to the negative. So it is defeated. So we will go back to the original motion, which is as stated, and I'm not going to read it again because it took 20 minutes. So I will at this time call the question. All those in favor of the original motion? Opposed? It goes to the negative. So it's defeated. Is that correct? So can I make another motion? Am I able to make a motion?
Yes, if you wish, or anybody else can at this point as well.
I would like to consider the motion to add one further recommendation to the list as stated, and that is to require the developer to pay $200,000 towards the development of the roundabout. And I'll just put it through to staff and find out if that's a possibility. Is that something that can be entertained?
Through the chair, yes, it is possible. The condition could be that the developer pay a financial contribution towards it, and that could be added to the original motion, which would make it a different motion.
Okay.
And therefore could be considered.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? Councillor Gurley.
So the intent here is to ensure that they're contributing in an equitable manner to the project and then proceed with it. Is that kind of your intention? That
would be my thinking if we pass it as stated.
But then it would be the town building the roundabout, not
it's the town. The town has to would be contributing into it anyway. The original plan was for the town to contribute essentially $1 million into it.
Yeah.
And other DCCs that would be collected. The idea is to have a bit of a savings towards building the roundabout. And so for all development to be pitching into it through DCCs and other mechanisms. Is that clear? Okay, Councillor Jacobson, comment?
So through to staff, until this roundabout is completed, the town is going to be carrying the balance of the costs.
Through the chair, could you clarify balance of the cost? Are you referring to?
So we've got 990,000 already set aside for this in the town, in the DCC bucket, right? And then if the proponent chips in 200 grand or whatever number you guys come up with, then the other 1.4-ish million dollars based on that quote, we would be carrying that cost.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. If the town were to end up building it, basically you would have $1 million in contributions from the DCC program, and then you would have the allocation the council is proposing, and then whatever remainder would be have to come from somewhere else.
Oh. So through to staff, this would either be coming from reserves, I'm assuming, or taxation.
Through the chair, it would. There's a variety of mechanisms that it could pay for. So, for example, if 10 years from now our revised DCC program has a higher DCC amount and that money is collected by through development, the allocations, it could come from that program as well or other programs. There's no at this juncture, there isn't necessarily a particular fund that the additional costs would come from. It has not been budgeted, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get that part, but I'm just curious as how, like, let's say I get that 10 years from now, but what if it's built in 2 years, right? So then we've got that 8 years in between to carry that cost. How are we carrying that cost? It's either coming from reserves or taxation, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead through to.
Through the chair, it could be through either short-term, long-term borrowing or taxation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gurley, then Patterson.
Through to staff, if we pursue this option, would latecomer fees still be applicable as part of, I guess that would be part of the DCCs paid by future developments in that region?
Through the chair, no, in this case, the developer wouldn't be building it, so they wouldn't be eligible for latecomer fees. So not a latecomer per se, however, a local service tax is a possibility, in which case that would be payable to the town if the town was building it.
Okay, I am into this idea.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. First of all, the roundabout won't be built until it's deemed by the town that it's absolutely necessary. Is that correct?
Through to staff.
Yeah.
Through the chair, yes. Council has not passed a resolution dictating when the roundabout will be built or made budget allocations to do so. One note on this, though, is that 300, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the amount, but the amount proposed by council for the developer's contribution, that would be essentially reserved for the roundabout cost. It would have to be applied to that project.
So just to follow up, the lots in behind this development heading north, those would be when construction started there or building permit, those would be paying DCCs towards or latecomers charges towards the roundabout, right?
Through the chair, not latecomers, but there might be opportunities for other fees to be collected to or other contributions to be collected from those developers, whether it be through a local service tax, whether it be through conditions such as the one before council right now as part of a rezoning proposal. But it is possible to bill other landowners for the cost of constructing the roundabout if the town is doing it.
No, I'm really confused.
May I clarify?
Please.
Latecomers are only payable if a private sector developer physically builds and completes infrastructure. If a government does it, latecomers do not apply.
Okay. Oh no, I have to. The 5 lots in behind, when they're developed, why would they not be paying? So what we're saying is this particular developer has to pay for the whole roundabout, and then when those 5 lots are developed or something is developed on the corner, they're not going to pay anything towards the roundabout?
Through the chair, the town can set up a system where other property owners contribute to to the project. The mechanism to do that is not a latecomer, but the same effect can be achieved with a variety of different instruments.
If I could just try it. I'll get a chalkboard.
Well, you've got 2 years left. I do.
The idea is that there is a mechanism for requiring other developers who come in after this point to do a similar thing in the way of contributing to the project. Even if we've already built it, that can be set aside for them to contribute after the fact. Is that it through a tax? Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, a tax is one mechanism, negotiated contributions are another.
Yeah.
And there is also a few other possibilities, but we'd have to run that by legal counsel.
Okay, thank you. Can you keep it really brief, only because we've got a lot of agenda and we're really running out of time?
No, it's a question about 2 of those 5 properties to the north already have, I don't think they have BPs, but I think they have DPs. So if they start going, which I suspect they might, and they have high paying jobs, would they would effectively miss a tax and a latecomer fee, right? If
Through to staff.
Through the chair, not necessarily. The topics that council is delving into right now are very complex financial and infrastructure sort of programs. This is normally dealt with through a budgeting process. For the sake of sort of this meeting, I think it's probably important for council to understand that yes, the town can in certain ways collect money from other property owners to contribute to the roundabout. The mechanism as to how that would be done would be a very complex analysis process in order to show council how that would be done and to provide those options. It's not necessarily an automatic thing. So the program would have to be devised, presented, and approved to council.
Okay, can we leave it at this point? Everyone okay?
Sorry. Thanks, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, tonight, our decision, this is still just about going to a public hearing. We still have to go to Modi, right? So this isn't, pardon?
All of this with the one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want clarification. So if the public wants his roundabout more than anything, they're gonna have the opportunity to come out of this public hearing and tell us.
Is there a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes. Number
Okay.
1A.
Are we? Go ahead.
So I just want to double check. So you're saying that your motion was an amendment to the main motion by adding
As written.
as written.
So
Thank
it's
you.
an extra piece to it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody understand that? That's what we're at. Okay. I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion, the new motion as presented. Against or opposed? 2 opposed. Stevens and Jacobson. Motion carries. Okay, let's move on. We're now at item 5.2, development variance permit and development permit for 128 Raleigh Roads Drive. And the recommendations are as follows. That council issue a development variance permit 309024-06 to vary the following provision of Town of Ladysmith zoning bylaw 2014 number 1860 for a proposed multi-unit residential development at 128 Raleigh Roads Drive, Lot 12, District Lot 103, Oyster District Plan EPP 75579, PID 030-477-620, A, Section 722C, to reduce the minimum landscape buffer from 1.5 meters to 0.5 meters, and B, Section 10.12.5D, to reduce the minimum frontage parcel line setback from 6 meters to 2.7 meters, 2, issue development permit number 306021 10 to allow construction of a 3-unit townhouse building and 2 duplex buildings at 128 Raleigh Roads Drive. And 3, require a condition of the issuance of development permit 306021 10 that the applicant provide landscape security in the amount of $23,382 as stated in the development permit 3060-21-10. And is there an extra piece to this one? There isn't. Oh, and okay. And we'll deal with that. Deal with that now, or
No, that was just for council
Yeah.
to review. So there's nothing that affects the recommendation at this
because
point.
council received the letters that were sent today in advance of the meeting, so we've received them and they're in the packages for public to read. Okay, so do we have someone to move? Moved by Councillor Bertanen, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Discussion. We'll go with Patterson and Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 449 of 1846 under infrastructure services. Provide updated detailed design, blah, 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 to meet flows for a 10-year event. I thought from a couple of years ago when we blew out Rocky Creek that we were planning for 100-year events. Is that?
In certain things through to staff.
Through the chair, engineering have reviewed it and they have asked for 10 years of infrastructure plan ahead.
Sorry, 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just thought from, it was a few years ago, but I thought we had a policy or an understanding that we're going to look at 100-year events.
I think you were referring to a culvert at that point.
Okay, or any kind of infrastructure. My second question is under the next one, building inspection. Separate building permits will be required for buildings A, B, and C and retaining walls. Is that necessary? Can't they apply for one? It's cost saving.
Through to staff.
Less paperwork for staff.
Through the chair, building inspector did calculate building areas and the square footage, and that's how he recommended they should submit 4 different applications.
Okay,
Okay.
I still don't understand why. It's just more work for our staff and more work for the proponent. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So I am supporting this, and I'll just say broadly, it follows the Holland Creek plan that is, I wish real estate agents would hand out in this neighborhood, honestly. I'd like to maybe speak to the letters, and we have the benefit of 46 pages of information. A huge part of this agenda, I think, deals with the 2 letters that we got in terms of environmental improvements. I mean, it's literally the environmental reports go about how reclaiming this, what was logged quite harshly, littered with bad culverts and bad roads, is being redeveloped in such a way that a lot of the natural environment is going to come back. The footprints of the buildings are dense, so we're having a minimum footprint and I think a minimal impact on it. There's the notion of safety and traffic and parking and all those things. Those are all covered, and all I can say to the people who've written these letters is please look through the reports or contact staff and see where the specifics of that these issues are dealt with. The disruption by construction, I don't want to steal Councillor Bertanen's thunder too much, but I know he's made the point a lot of times that when you're complaining about someone else building your home, someone else was complaining about your home being built a year ago. So I think it's one of those. But thanks for the people writing in. We don't get enough letters and emails relative to social media speculation. So it was good to see this, and I hope the questions can be answered, if not by my general comments, but by the specifics of what we got in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, sorry to interrupt, but Director Bella-Baba can answer Councillor Patterson's questions regarding the 3 phases of the building permits.
Oh, okay. Go
Uh,
ahead.
Through the chair, just to add, we do separate building permits because under the BC Building Code, each building is treated separately. So in this case, it actually creates less work for us and for the applicant because we can issue occupancy permits on a building by building basis. So it actually turns out easier, especially for a development that will occur likely over phases.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from council? Okay, Councillor Gurley.
Yeah, I appreciate the points pointed out in the letter as well, and I felt similar to Councillor Stevens, especially. I mean, even about the construction, there's a report detailing how there's maximum idle times for various sizes of vehicles. Like it's a pretty, they're really doing their best, I think, in this case to minimize the impact on the residents, and I think that the proposed development will suit the neighborhood super well and provide great homes, so I support it.
Okay, thank you. I will just add a comment just with regards to the environmental concerns. I know that when this piece of land was first getting developed, it was inappropriately, completely stripped of everything. It was never the intention, and that was not okay to do. I think that a lot has happened on the site since then that's would help to retain some of the ground from doing that again. And I am trusting that we will be monitoring it closely for any environmental impact and making sure that it's not happening and or any environmental impact is kept to an absolute minimum. The other piece I would comment on is the fact that I like the fact that the parking for this development goes on behind the 3 units at the front, the triplex at the front. The driveways are at the back of the units. They're not coming in off the road, which then saves the integrity of the curbway, which I know is a concern in that area for parking, and so it doesn't interrupt that. They will be using the existing, I'll just verify that, but I believe they're using the existing driveway opening. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
And there will only be one point in and out, so that even again minimizes the disruption to the curbside and creates less disruption to the status quo, which I think is a positive.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments, I think we have a motion and seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to number 6, which is our bylaws, official community plan and zoning. This is 6.1, our housing needs report and consequential OCP amendments. And I will read the recommendations. Buckle in, there's 2 pages. Here we go. First recommendation, pursuant to section 585.31 and 790(2), the Local Government Act, receive the December 17th, 2024 report to Council as the town's interim housing needs report. 2, direct staff to publish the interim housing needs report to the town's website pursuant to section 795, bracket 5 of the Local Government Act. 3, having considered section 475 of the Local Government Act, and in particular the matters set out in subsection 2A and B, resolve that A, the Staminas First Nation is the only entity that is appropriate to consult in connection with the official community plan bylaw 2003 number 1488, amendment bylaw 2023 number 2190. B, consultation should be early and need not be ongoing. C, the consultation process described in the December 17th, 2024 staff report to Council is sufficient in respect to the proposed official community plan amendment. And D, staff be directed to refer official community plan bylaw 2003 number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190, to the Staminas First Nations as set out in Recommendation 3 for consultation in the manner described in the December 17th, 2024 report to Council. Number 4, give first and second reading to Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003, number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190. Number 5, consider Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003, number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190, in conjunction with the town's financial plan and town's liquid waste management plan and the Cowichan Valley Regional District solid waste management plan pursuant to section 4773 of the Local Government Act. 6, consider Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003, number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190, in conjunction with the town's interim housing needs report and the housing information on which the report is based pursuant to section 4731, bracket 2 of the Local Government Act. 7, direct staff to refer Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003, number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190 to the School District 68 pursuant to section 476 of the Local Government Act, and 8, pursuant to section 481.72 of the Local Government Act, review the interim housing needs report and the Town of Ladysmith zoning bylaw 2014, number 1860, and resolve that further zoning amendments to meet the 20-year total number of required housing units are not required. And finally, 9, direct staff to proceed with scheduling and notification of a public hearing for Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003, number 1488, Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2190, pursuant to section 4641 of the Local Government Act. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Virtanen. Do we have any comments or anything from staff on this in advance? It is well described in the report. Comment, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. Just on page 768, table 1, down to the new zoning, net crease and potential units. That'll scare them. 11,176. That is up to 2050, right?
Through the chair, that's the capacity that's on the books right now. It's important to understand that that's like a maximum build out, and it doesn't necessarily reflect how the market will respond to those zoning rights. Generally speaking, Ladysmith has only ever built about a maximum of about 100 to 150 units per year, usually less than that. So you could imagine that it would take quite some time at current construction rates to fulfill that capacity.
Just
Follow up.
in the housing needs report that we did with, or were partners in with the CVRD, which we received last year, I believe, it gave us the breakdown of the types of units: single bedroom, 2-bedroom, etc. This doesn't. Is that a necessity, or is that something that we just added?
Through the chair, it's not a necessity under the new parameters. I believe we did just add that breakdown for the CVRD, the joint CVRD one.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So just a couple of general comments to staff. Thank you so much. It was really great, easy reading and thorough. And I've said before that I thought we weathered Bill 44 really well with because of our OCP, and I think this really drives it home. The thing I'd like to dwell on maybe a bit more is on page 771 and 772, statement 2, about all the policies and projects that I think are really game-changing that we've done in terms of making housing more plentiful and more affordable. And you know them when you read them. You're like, oh yeah, we did that, we've done that, but we read so much that you forget about things. So I really think that it's commendable. And I would say to all of my colleagues, but particularly Councillor Gourlay, who just turned 33, and Councillor Jacobson and Acting Mayor Mackay, not too bad for a bunch of old boys.
I was wondering where you were going there. Thank you.
Where does that leave me?
Same place as always.
Okay, back of the bus.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Bertanen.
Just a quick question, please. On page 70, right at the very top there in bold, town currently has zoning in place to accommodate well over 20,000, new units, sorry. I just asked a question.
Thanks for joining us.
You're back with me.
Okay.
I missed the word new the first time.
All good. I'll just make one comment, and it is a bit of a question. I because I have nothing better to do, I did happen to watch the Nanaimo Council meeting last night. I know that makes me sad. One of the things I noticed on their report, because of course they're presenting their report at the same time, is that they teased out or got information on the number of units needed to support people living, people who need deep subsidy and people who need supported housing. Do we have any statistic like that for Ladysmith, or is it our numbers small enough that that would be lumped with CBRD? Go ahead.
Through the chair, that's actually available in Appendix A. You'll see Component 8A, Extreme Core Housing Need Calculation. So the template that the government, that the provincial government produces, does require an accounting of sort of extreme core housing need or more sort of challenging housing needs that are not typically met by the general market.
So it's referred to as extreme housing need.
Yeah, and then I think there's also, if I recall correctly, there's sort of some varying categorizations within the report in terms. So there's calculations of homelessness and things like that. So and then they're all summarized. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'll look again. Seeing no other comments, I will call the question. We're just receiving this. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to outlaw the use of puns. In this discussion, there will be no puns. Has been decreed. My only power. We will move on with number 6.2, proposed animal control bylaw and subsequent zoning bylaw amendment. This is a recommendation that council, 1, give first and second and third reading to the Town of Ladysmith Animal Bylaw 2024, number 2167. 2, give first and second reading to the Town of Ladysmith Zoning Bylaw 2014, number 1860, Amendment Bylaw 2024, number 2169. And 3, direct staff to proceed with scheduling and notification of a public hearing for Town of Ladysmith Zoning Bylaw 2014, number 1860, Amendment Bylaw 2024, number 2169, pursuant to Section 4641 of the Local Government Act, and 4, direct staff to forward zoning bylaw 2014, number 1860, Amendment Bylaw 2024, number 2169 to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure after third reading of the bylaw pursuant to Section 52 of the Transportation Act. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Jacobson, seconded by Councillor Gourlay, and Councillor Patterson wishes to speak first, then Stevens.
Okay, where was I? Just thank you, Mayor. Question through to staff. The designated areas, which is Schedule A, the map is pretty well all of town, but there's a section down, looks just south of the mall, then generally all of Old Town, and then up towards over there. The rationale for determining this.
Go ahead through to staff.
Through the chair. So the backyard poultry exclusion areas was developed by applying a 200-meter buffer from I think it was natural park, so P3 zones, as well as undeveloped forested lots, as we wanted to integrate the concerns of the conservation officer for possible increases in wildlife conflict by introducing backyard poultry into the urban environment. So the rationale was to provide that buffer area to hope for kind of a reduction in that possible increase in conflict.
Thank you. So just to clarify, anywhere in the red on the map is an exclusionary zone. They're excluded from that area.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Well, I'm not 100%, but you threw ducks in there. I'll probably go with it.
Good strategy, folks. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So I want to congratulate Councillor Gourlay. This was your baby. And I won't say I'm happy that your chickens come home to roost, but I know you shepherded this all the way through.
Stop it.
All right, I'll stop it. I actually, I looked at the exclusions, and I remember this last time having the impression that the exclusion zones were so big. But I do think, looking at the feedback that we got from the conservation officers, that it's the best compromise. You might call it the greatest of all times compromise. What's the short form for that?
Are you finished?
I'm done.
Councillor Vertanen. We're moving on.
Thanks, Madam Chair. A question about process here. So the first two recommendations, so we're giving 3 readings of bylaw 2167, 2 readings of 2169, to go to a public hearing on 2169. So I'm just unclear. So what happens if we get this big outpour of anti-poultry in the town? If we've already passed 2167 and we don't pass 2169, what happens?
Through to staff.
Through the chair, so we wouldn't be recommending the adoption of the animal control bylaw until after the public hearing has proceeded, and then the third reading has also proceeded of the zoning. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Gourlay.
Yeah, thanks for a really comprehensive bylaw, and in particular, the Backyard Poultry Information Guide is new to this meeting. Great job, and I think just dialing in on that fact that this is going to require education, like any really active engagement in a community, like anything involving animals, it's going to require education. So this is a really great way to just initiate that and offer that in a really accessible way. So I am definitely happy to support the recommendations and look forward to the public hearing.
And my only comment would be great report, very thorough and very readable. So thank you. Seeing no other comments, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing no opposed, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. Okay, we will move on to committee minutes. This is 7.1, Accessibility Advisory Committee, October 30th, 2024 and November 27th, 2024. Recommendation that the council receive the minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee held October 30th and November 27th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. Any discussion? Councillor Gourlay, go ahead.
Thank you. There is a vacancy and a resignation noted in the minutes. what is staff thoughts on filling that vacancy?
I think we were just going to wait till 2025 to try and start some social media posts to see if we can fill it.
Okay. No further questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing no opposed, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on now to our bylaws for adoption, and bearing in mind that these have all been previously discussed at great length, and that we are just moving forward with the adoption of them at this point. Okay, so moving on to 8.1.1 sanitary sewer rates bylaw 1999, number 1299 amendment bylaw 2024 and number 2198, and just the recommendation to adopt. I better read it as exactly as it is. I will slow down and not read the titles for these. Recommendation that council adopt sanitary sewer bylaw, rate bylaw 1999, number 1299, amendment bylaw 2024, number 2198. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to 8.1.2. The recommendation is that council adopt Waterworks Regulations Bylaw 1999, number 1298, amendment bylaw 2024, number 2199. Oh, I have a hand up by our corporate officer. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Madam Mayor. We just recognized we had made a change to this bylaw at the last meeting when we gave it the first 3 readings, but unfortunately the old bylaw has made it in tonight. So the changes that had been made were just 2 measurements, and it is part 6, A and B of Schedule A, where we mentioned 4-inch service connection, and it should be 1-inch service connection. So if you can just
So we need an amendment to the.
so it's just unfortunate that there's no amendment that needs to be done. You've already passed the bylaw with the corrected amounts, but unfortunately the bylaw that was put into this agenda package had the incorrect amounts. So if you
Okay.
just keep that in under advisement that this should have the corrected amounts.
Everyone understand and is informed. You don't. We'll explain later. Okay. That's it. Everyone does understand, right? The way we're voting on. Okay, then I will call the question. All those in favor?
Oh, we
Any
didn't
opposed?
we didn't do first and second readings. We just we didn't move it and second it. We just
Oh, we didn't?
no.
I thought we did.
Okay.
Okay, so then it's Stevens and Patterson, I thought, had moved and seconded.
They did the last one, but
Okay. I stand corrected.
sorry.
I'll call the question again. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to slow down to make sure this gets done correctly. My apologies. 8.1.3. Recommendation that council adopt garbage, recycling, and organics collection bylaw 2005, number 1588, amendment bylaw 2024, number 2201. Moved by Councillor Gourlay, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. No comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.1.4, the recommendation is that council adopt 2025 revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2024, number 2202. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Gourlay. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, we're now on 8.1.5. The recommendation is that council adopt Town of Ladysmith Downtown Development Cost Charges Reduction Repeal Bylaw 2024, number 2203. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Gourlay, seconded by Councillor Stevens. No hands. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Patterson opposed. Number 8.1.6, the recommendation is that council adopt Town of Ladysmith Fire Services Bylaw 2023, number 2147, Amendment Bylaw 2024, number 2204. Moved by Councillor Jacobson, seconded by, they've all dropped off to sleep, Councillor Bertanen. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Go ahead. What do I need to know?
No, and then the next two are the late agenda items that.
Here we are. 8.1.7. And the recommendation is that council adopt official community plan bylaw 2003 number 1488, amendment bylaw 2024 number 2170. This is the business that we talked about today. Councillor Bertanen and Councillor Patterson. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. And I believe our last one, this is 8.1.8, that council adopt Town of Ladysmith zoning bylaw 2014, number 1860, amendment bylaw 2024, number 2171. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Jacobson. All in favor? None opposed. The motion carries. Is that all we need to do with that one? Okay. Moving right along. 9. We have 8.2, which is the bylaw status sheet for your perusal, and 9.1, which is a piece of correspondence that's already been previously distributed to council. It's just for information. That's 9.1. Moving on now to new business. There was a notice of motion from Councillor Stevens. Do I read the notice of motion, or like the recommendation, and then give Councillor Stevens a chance to speak to it, or do I have him speak to it before we?
You could read it first and
Okay. So the recommendation is that the spokesperson section of the Town of Ladysmith Communications and Social Media Policy 04-1470 be changed to read: the mayor or a designate as appointed annually by council is the official media spokesperson, and that acting Mayor Mackay is hereby appointed. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Jacobson, and I'll let you speak to it since it's your motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll use my notes because that will be quicker. So this was a thought that occurred to me after we reviewed the 2010 communication policy, and in particular where it noted that so much had changed that we didn't even have language to cover social media. So I thought it was notable. The policy doesn't change much. We should maybe do it. If there's a little bit to add, we should do it and leave it for another decade. So the motion is firmly based in the reality that nothing substantial happens without a vote of council. Council authorizes mayor and corporate officer to sign development permits and contracts. Council appoints CVRD director and alternate, the VIRL director and alternate. Council appoints members of committees, commissions, the Waterfront Development Corporation directors. So I think it's based on the idea that this job that we do is very much all about duty, not so much about power, and that it's all about being functional and making the physical and environmental and social environments of this community better. Just in terms of technicalities, it does nothing to affect Section 116 of the Community Charter. It's fully in keeping with Section 122. It's fully in keeping with Section 124. And really it's about keeping things functional. And with all due respect, and I have to read from the list to colleagues around the province, Kamloops, Quesnel, Lions Bay, Harrison Hot Springs, Surrey over 2 terms, deadlocked in dysfunction. And I think this is one small mechanism that could maybe help to alleviate that. If so much has changed since 2010 with the advent of social media, I think so much has changed in the dynamics of councils. And so we've all had the experience, I think, of going to conferences and there are councils that won't sit together at lunch. That's fine, but you need to function. You need to keep things moving along. So these 8 words, change, are to that end, not pure and simple. So I'm happy to answer questions, but that was my thought behind it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gurley, then Jacobson.
Thank you. I just kind of wonder about the practicality of this, because when something happens in town CBC wants a comment, Czech wants a comment, they're by default going to get in touch with the mayor. This does this really stop that flow of just how the industry works?
I think the idea is that it's only if the mayor's unavailable, then the spokesperson is the
That's not my understanding
designated
of
by.
the.
Is that correct?
No, this would be an annual, probably
Oh, I see.
ultimately aligned with the at the same time that we do the appointment to CVRD and VRL, and that point, you'd have to, that was why the addition of acting Mayor Mackay to this, but it would line up with that and would simply be a procedural thing. And you would coast over it year after year after year after year. And I think probably never even essentially apply it, but it's there if the case arose that you needed to. And it's strictly from empirical evidence of what's going on out there and how communities are suffering because stuff's not getting done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Well, I understood that to begin with, but I just don't see why, even if it were applied, which is why we're entertaining this thought, and the official spokesperson were someone other than the mayor, what's still stopping a reporter? Like, what's really stopping a reporter from getting the view of the mayor anyway?
It's true, but if you're asking if in the event that it was to need to be that it was a controversy, then the person who was designated would be the official person, so they would have the opportunity to do any kind of public appearance kind of stuff that was
So,
required.
like in a press release
Yeah.
from the town, it would be
Yeah.
the designate
I guess so.
quoted.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Councillor Vertanen. Oh, sorry, Patterson. Just watching the clock.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as I'm concerned, and it is in our proposal that the mayor is the official spokesperson for the community, and annually the mayor appoints deputy mayors for 6 months term, and in the absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor would be the official spokesperson for the community, and having somebody other than designated by the mayor, I think could muddy the waters. As far as I'm concerned, the mayor or the deputy mayor are the official spokespersons for the town. Somebody appointed on a year-round basis could have a totally different of opinion with the mayor, and we could end up in a situation like those other unfortunate communities. So I will not be in favor of it.
And that's fine. Councillor Jacobson, I think it's, Vertanen, sorry, we'll come around again.
Thanks, Madam Chair. To take Councillor Gourlay's question maybe a step further, because I got a little bit confused too, of as appointed annually by council, but then Councillor Stevens used our virile appointments and other ones. But the mayor is the one that really, I know we've been asked our preferences and stuff like that, but it's usually the mayor that appoints us on those roles anyways.
Some
So
of them.
would the mayor be appointing? That's why I'm confused.
Some appointments are mayor appointed, other ones are council voted. Some of them are just appointed by the mayor, and others are council votes on them. They're like the name is put forward by the mayor, and then it's verified by council.
Right, but historically we've never got a case where no, we
No.
might in a different situation.
I think it's just intended to be a safeguard for 10, 15, 25 years from now if it might be needed.
So
It's
then
there because life is changing.
But then would we vote then as council on this?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be chosen every year by council. Is that correct? As your intention? Does that make sense, Councillor Gourlay?
I actually don't think I'm going to support it, and the reason is we already have mechanisms. Like, we vote on the deputy mayor, we vote on the CVRD representative.
We do not vote on the deputy mayor.
Well, we do vote on the CVRD representative.
No.
Yep.
Well,
We do.
okay.
There was a motion and a vote. I distinctly recall,
Let's keep it
which is a lot more influence than the mayor. I think it's up to the people of Ladysmith to elect their ceremonial figurehead, and that's kind of what the mayor is. Outside of chairing the meetings, they're the spokesperson and the town and the face of the municipality. Whether everybody's comfortable with it or not, that's how democracy works.
Okay. Thank you. I think we have enough points of view. I think. Oh, you want to go ahead? Yeah, you had your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I actually like this idea, and I think it could open up a bit more of an opportunity for some folks who might have gotten, haven't had the opportunity to do more public speaking or to be in a more official role than and have that interaction. I like the idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying it out and seeing how it goes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands. Oh, you want to go ahead and bring it home?
I would say this is, it would be never even, it's a guardrail, not a speed bump, is essentially was my intent. Just looking around and seeing dysfunction, and it becomes a deadlock of 1 against 6 or 1 against 8 or 1 against 4 in those situations. If you had that, you've got this as a fail-safe. And the chances of one versus the group potentially being the issue, as we witness the cases that I've shown you around the province, is greater, just statistically speaking. So but it is, as a matter of course, in the fall, when you say, I'm nominating myself, as the mayor does, as the CVRD rep, you would say, and I nominate myself as, and it would be a procedural matter, the vote would take place. There would almost, because everyone knows what's involved with being the spokesperson, because we've all been deputy mayor. There's no fun in that town a lot of times. So it's a chore that the mayor takes on and gets paid accordingly for. But this is here as a guardrail. So that was strictly the intent of it. Thank you.
Do you want to speak one more time?
I just wanted to add, I think it's also all right for council members to sort of shoulder that, carry that commentary forward as well, instead of just placing it on one person.
Well, and the idea, I think, is that the person who's selected by council, most likely the mayor, would not be running wild with that power.
Well, you'd hope.
You would hope. It's an experiment, I guess. All right, I'm going to call the question for the motion as stated, and you've all got it in front of you to have a look at it again. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Actually, I'm in favor. Opposed? And it goes to the opposed. Thank you. Motion defeated. All right. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're on to question period. Okay. I will welcome anyone to the microphone who'd like to speak. Hello. Just state your name and your address for us.
There we go. Hi.
Go
How
ahead.
are you guys doing?
Great.
Good. I'm Michael James Macy Haywood.
Okay.
My mom's maiden name is Macy.
And your address?
19 Wood Willow Bay, Southwest Calgary. Also, I have one in Nanaimo. I have one here. I have one all across Canada. But that's no problem. Which one would you like?
Well, we're looking for a local address, actually.
Well, I've been in your town for 5 days, and I haven't stayed inside. I haven't stopped. Except for the last thing I slept.
I think our questions are actually limited to people
That's
who are
fine. You're asking me
resident.
questions.
Excuse me?
You're asking me questions. I'm trying to answer them. That's all.
Your address is?
I don't have one here.
Then unfortunately, do we
What do you mean?
have a ruling on that?
I want an address here.
Well, you have to be actually a resident of Ladysmith to speak at a council in asking questions with regard to an agenda. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry we made you wait. I wish we had clarified that for you earlier. You've been thoroughly entertained, I'm sure. Thank you for coming. Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
Robert Johnson, 526 First Avenue. 2 questions. The first question is, I need a point of clarification before I actually ask the question. In regards to the roundabout, the DCC charges, the maximum that they can put into the...
Mr. Johnson, would you direct your comments to me, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, so I'm just looking
I,
at
I
it.
won't put it through to staff unless it's
Okay,
reasonable to answer it this time. So go ahead.
okay. The DCC charges that are being spoken of in regards to the roundabout is a maximum of $990,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
I would like to know, is that the amount of money that we have in the road DCC charges? The
So I
reason
missed what you said there. Try that again. Sorry.
is that the maximum amount that we have in DC charges for roads? Because my question is, if you allocate the $990,000, if it is the maximum or the vast majority of the money that you have for roads under DCCs, what effect will it have on the other roads within the
The
municipality?
90,000 is the amount that a developer can be charged for DCs for a given project. Is that am I correct on that? Just a nod is needed.
Through the chair, the 990,000 is the amount that will be allocated from the DCC road reserve to the roundabout project.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing now is that $999,000 out of road reserves would be used potentially for a single project. And how would that affect the other road maintenance within the municipality? I believe we got 1,400 or 1,400 miles of roadway in town.
Well, it's not on a budget directly at this point. So at the time that it would be put on a budget, it would be looked at as part of all of the projects for the town on the year. It's
Okay.
not. It's not a project set out as such to be budgeted at this point.
Okay, the last point for clarification, I'll leave the subject. How much money do you have in road DCC charges, and how much would be left after you took out 990,000?
Somebody would have to get back to you with that. I'm afraid that's not
Okay.
something we have off the top of our head.
Okay, thank you. Second question, on page 839 of the agenda, First Avenue freeholders submitted a letter asking that the DCC charges not be revoked. My understanding is that in March of 2011, Mayor and Council lowered the DC charges by 10% as an encouragement for revitalization of the buildings in the downtown specific area, i.e. downtown core. This helped the people at Platitudes and Temperance. So my question is, how is adding an extra 10% back on the DC charges
I think you're
benefit?
talking about a different DCC reduction.
No, I'm sorry, I double checked it.
Okay.
May I finish my
I
question?
don't have the answer,
Well,
unfortunately.
no, I never asked my question, so you can't answer it until
Okay.
I ask it.
Go ahead.
My question is, how is putting the 10% increase back on DCC charges going to help in the redevelopment and development of heritage buildings within the specified area, i.e. the downtown core? How will it help?
We have other mechanisms. I'm not familiar with what you're referring to be perfectly honest, but we have other mechanisms already in place for helping with the redoing heritage buildings. We have a tax deferral mechanism at this point.
So,
Yeah, and also in the OCP, the new OCP that we've got, it is in the OCP to come up with new mechanisms that would be suiting to today's conditions and moving forward. So as part of implementing over the long term our OCP, those bylaws will be reintroduced and there'll be new mechanisms put in place to be able to achieve that, because nobody wants it more than we do. We want to continue to see the downtown core supported.
So I'm going to restate what I heard. What I'm hearing you say is that you in the future have other ways of helping, but by revoking the bylaw today, you're not doing anything to help these people. For example, the people who want to work on the Islander Hotel. And the other point that you said is you weren't clear on the motion that you voted on?
I think we are perfectly clear on the motion. I'm
Well,
not
you
entirely
just-
sure what you're
You
referring
just said,
to.
we're not clear about the bylaw.
I'm going to
Through the
ask.
chair, you've answered the questions.
Sorry,
You've answered the questions.
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I've answered
okay.
the questions. I'm not
Thank
entirely
you.
clear on what you're asking. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Hello.
Hello.
Eva Vincent, 731 Colonia Drive. Looking in reference to the change to the bylaw 2014, number 1860, 2024, number 2171, hope I have that in the right order, the mixed use residential DC8. I see that there's an increase for area A of 100 units and area B of 400 units. With Colonia Drive, and I know it's not opened up through, but I live on the lower end of Colonia Drive, and that road has only been poured to 50 millimeters depth. And once that opens up, that traffic goes through, that then does not become a subdivision road, it becomes a thoroughfare or a throughfare. And the standards for that are 75 to 100. We're already seeing cracks in a road that's pretty new, and I'm wondering how that deficiency in the asphalt is going to be addressed with the potential of heavier traffic.
I have a feeling you have a bit of a misunderstanding on the report. I'm going to put it through to Mr. Belobaba to address your comment.
Through the chair, two things. This item's already been through a public hearing, so council's, although it has closed, council can hear submissions. But the question as to the design of Colonia Drive, it was designed to accommodate these units. There has been no increase in units as a result of that development proposal. So the road has been designed for that particular development.
So when the road was cored, it was cored to subdivision standards at 50. And I know that because my husband did the coring. And we've already seen substantial damage. There was a water coming through. There ended up being a hole at the end of the road.
If I could ask you to address your concerns
absolutely.
and questions
Apologies.
to me, please.
So it's currently, it isn't an issue. Currently, that road is closed. When that development expands and we have that amount of traffic who will be coming as a shortcut north, it becomes a collector lane. It doesn't meet government standards. And maybe you can't address that now, but I just would like to put it out there that this will become an issue. And maybe for future consideration, when you're looking at development plans, ensuring that, I don't know which, I don't know all the rules. I don't know if the developers have to contribute to that, but it should be done to the lowest standard of the next level rather than the lowest standard of the first level.
And just to finish off your question, have you got another question for us?
No, my question was my concern, how is council going to address the deficiency when that opens up and starts becoming a deficit in that road?
Would you like to make one more comment, Mr. Belobaba, or are you finished?
Through the chair, only that the road was designed by professional engineers for the development that is proposed in Holland Creek.
So if we're all talking about the same area, there's a difference of opinion on the road. And if you would like to speak with staff on it in another way, then it can perhaps get fleshed out better so everyone has a common understanding of the problem.
That's great.
Okay, it's not going to happen tonight, unfortunately.
Well, no, I realize
certainly
that,
not with
but
me.
it's something I just wanted to report. I've seen the damage to the road. My husband actually worked for the engineering company that did the original study. They did it to the minimum standards, which what they were requested at that time. I don't know if the engineering.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the gallery, which seems to be growing? All right. Before we adjourn, we have one more item to take care of, but I'm going to actually ask that we take a very short recess, just maybe 5 minutes to get set up for this, if that's okay. And anyone who is not wanting to stay for the presentation, you're welcome to leave at this point. We do have invited guests that will be joining us for reception after our meeting. So essentially the meeting is done except for adjournment. And one more item. Thank you. Be back. Okay, I just want to get my posse back here. Yep, I would like the council to come and stand in the back here, please. See how well everyone reacts. Would all the folks who are standing at the back like to come and sit down if there's space? Make yourself at home. I know.
That's right. No, that's right.
This is hardly stressful.
All right, are we ready? Do we have everyone in place? Rob Hutchins, can you come forward, please? This evening, we have a very, very special task. And it is the very first time that we have ever given the freedom of the town to anyone. And it couldn't be going to a more worthy human. I have a written speech that I will be relying on, so we're not all here for 4 or 5 hours. Forgive me for reading. Good evening. It is my great honor to stand before you today to recognize and celebrate the remarkable contribution of Rob Hutchins, whose 21 years of dedicated service as mayor of Ladysmith have left an enduring legacy on our community. Rob's visionary leadership and unwavering commitment to environmental stewardship, community development, and collaboration have profoundly shaped the town we know and love today. Under Rob's stewardship, Ladysmith blossomed into a model of environmental sustainability and community pride. A few years into his first term, Ladysmith achieved an incredible milestone in 1995, becoming the first community in the Cowichan Valley to introduce universal recycling, a testament to our town's progressive spirit. One of Rob's most transformative initiatives was the Ladysmith Green Street program, which led to planting 1,000 boulevard trees over a decade, an incredible achievement that has transformed our landscape for the better. How many of you have strolled along Holland Creek Trail or the Rotary Lookout Trail? How many of you have sat and enjoyed live performances at the amphitheater? How many of you have taken your children to the spray park? These are some of Ladysmith's most cherished places, and they're here thanks to Rob's leadership and passion for enhancing public spaces. I'm starting to sound like Aaron Stone. I just meant holding back the tears. Beyond these achievements, Rob's most profound legacy may be his commitment to fostering partnerships and building bridges within our community. In 2007, Rob led the way in establishing an historic partnership with Staminas First Nations through signing the first community accord, followed by the second accord in 2012 and a memorandum of understanding. These agreements laid the groundwork for a collaborative, respectful relationship between our communities. Today, we honor Rob Hutchins, not only for his extraordinary achievements, but also for the inspiration he continues to provide all of us. On behalf of the town of Ladysmith, I extend our deepest gratitude and respect to Rob for his years of service, his vision, and his unwavering dedication to making Ladysmith a better place for everyone. Thank you, Rob, for your remarkable contribution to our town. My hand is so cold. I present you with our first ever Freedom of the Town Award. Thank you. And a gift. Oh, wait, that's not all.
Old iPhone.
There's always so many.
Look, yeah. Have you got Amanda in there?
No,
Oh.
I'm just totally photobombing.
No, come on, get in the picture. Okay,
Oh,
okay,
hang on.
over here, Kara. Okay, and there you go.
Thank you. What type of freedom does this give me?
Well, you get free cinnamon buns for the rest of your life.
You can park your motorhome on the road.
Can I say a few words?
No.
Yes, you can.
Trish, can I say something?
Yeah. Okay, well,
Hang on.
we've got a few other words that need to be spoken, if you're okay. We're not going to do a lot of it, but Councillor Patterson's pretty keen to speak.
Never had one of these when you were mayor. Not sure if that's good or bad. Tricia or Allison didn't know that I was going to do this. I think they probably thought that I would do something. But what Tricia said is all very true, and what Rob did in his mayoralty gig is all very true, but way, way more. But you did it too. Rob did way more than the mayoralty thing because there was other people working with him on it. But the reason the community worked with him on it is because of the human being Rob is, and how he could lead and show people the right way. And the reason he did that, when his wife was seriously sick with cancer, when they were opening up a business, they're very successful. Did you bring some? Okay. It just, Rob would phone me after council 6:30 at night, and we just had a 3.5% tax increase, and he would give me 6 simple steps on how to pull my head out of my ass. And then he would phone me at 11:30 and say, Duck, we've got to raise more money for the amphitheater. The amphitheater was Rob's idea, and it was driven by volunteers because of Rob. Rob got those people involved, and we raised the money, not through the taxes, but through volunteers. Rob got people to paint the Air Cadets Hall. He got council to do it. Council painted City Hall. Rob got people to donate land for the Holland Creek Trail. Rob did this not as the mayor. He did it. Son of a bitch. Because Rob really believes in this community, and he believes in this town and the people that are here. So when Rob was mayor, we got more than the mayor. We got somebody that put Ladysmith on the map and is the beautiful place that we have today. He left and still is leaving his mark. I'm very proud. Beg you, my friend. All the shit on the phone, but that's a matter of fact.
Well, first of all, my son Peter's here, and I said, Peter, if I talk more than 4 minutes, you start clapping, and that'll be the message to stop. I presently work in Nanaimo in the International Student Program, and I had to explain to my staff that I was leaving work early today and also wouldn't be there tomorrow morning. And I had to say, well, why? And I said, well, because I'm getting an award called the Freedom of the Town. And I'm not quite sure what it's about and what do I get from it, but it's an award. And one of my homestay coordinators said, he's quite a sporty guy, he says, do you mean this is like raising your jersey to the rafters? So I brought my jersey. I thought it was a good idea, like Aggie Hall would be Anyway, I just thank you for those kind words and thank you for this recognition. Thanks, Doctor.
Gotcha.
I want to say I am so grateful to be part of a community that's filled with caring and generous people. Trish and Duck mentioned the Green Street program, so you're not supposed to surprise your staff, but I did that May of 1994, 6 months into my mayorship, because we had received a report from the 90th birthday party celebration group, and they talked about how we're going to celebrate it on June 4th, our 90th birthday. And I noticed that what was missing in the report was any indication of a birthday gift. So I said to council at the council table, what are we going to do about a birthday gift? There is no mention of a birthday gift. And there was no ideas forthcoming, and one of them could have been Ducks of what he got in mind. And I said, well, I want to give a big gift. I want to start planting 100 trees a year for 10 years. And on our 100th anniversary, we'd be planting our 1,000th tree. And of course, without consulting staff, I said, I think it's going to cost us about $10,000. And if you amend the budget to put $5,000 towards this birthday gift, I'll raise $5,000 from the community. And there's a bunch of heads shaking around the table. Rob, you're not going to raise $5,000 by next week. And I said, I will, if you just agree that we're going to do this. So after the meeting, I went to my desk and I wrote 10 names on a list. And the first name was my wife, Susan. Because if I'm going to ask $500 from 9 other people, I knew one of them was going to ask, are you contributing, Rob? Anyway, Sue said yes. And so the next door I knocked on and I shared a vision. The individual said, I'm not going to give you 500. I'm going to give you 5,000. And the third door I knocked on, the individual said, similar words, I'm not going to give you 500. I'm going to give you 3,000, but I'm going to phone somebody that wasn't on my list, and they're going to give you another 2,000. So by the third person, we had 10,500. Anyway, I had 7 more people to knock the doors on, and we raised $7,000 more. So the gift from the community by a shared vision, and it was just so spontaneous and so overwhelming. And I had no idea that it would unleash in this community a pent-up desire to beautify the community. We are so blessed, and I am so grateful that we have a host of really strong clubs and organizations in the community. I'm not going to list them all, but many of you here are members of those clubs and organizations, and they seem to have, or I discovered they had an agenda, and the agenda was, what can we do to make this community more livable and better? Duck mentioned the amphitheater. I learned a lesson from the Green Street. This time we had a staff design, staff plan before I went out and asked for money. But it was a $245,000 bill in 1999. And we came up with, we got to raise $75,000 from the community. And there were some naysayers on council that said, you're not going to do it. We're in a recession. How are you going to get that money? And I said, we'll find it. Again, this community stepped forward. We didn't raise $75,000 from the community. We raised $123,000 from the community. And the amphitheater has been a great success. I'm very grateful that over those 25 years that I served on council, we've had an extremely dedicated and professional town staff. They did the heavy lifting. At one time in the council chambers, we had this collage from each year because so much was happening in the community, and we were celebrating from clubs to organizations to town work and partnerships. They did the heavy lifting, and we also were blessed with some exceptional grant writers that we didn't have to go to the taxpayers to make things happen. We went to other levels of governments and other organizations. First Avenue upgrade. And this is where we were stretching the limit. we're doing from the roundabout, the new roundabout, first one in Western Canada. I think it was Kelowna or Kamloops backed out, so we got twice the money because ICBC was giving us a chunk of change to test drive a, no pun intended, a roundabout. And however, we were leaving the very ugly Aggie Bank. If you were here at that time, you would remember this grassy, scrubby, dandelion-ridden bank that was no welcome entrance to the community. But it was our town staff that said, you got to do better. You can't stop the roundabout. So we didn't go to the public. We went to our budget and we stretched it. And so we have a beautiful entrance, not because of leadership from the town, other council, but from our town staff. I've also been blessed, and I'm so grateful for the men and women that have served on those councils over the last 7 terms, or those 7 terms. You know, we came from all walks of life, all political stripes, and when they came to the table, they had one agenda. And that was to do the best they could for this community. I can't tell you how many times I met with mayors and councils from across small town British Columbia, and they didn't enjoy what we had, which was cooperation. They had block voting, and if you were on the losing side of the block, you had a miserable 3 years in council because you could get nothing through. We never experienced that, not once. I could tell you many stories, and some of them were shared by Trish and Doug tonight, but I think one of the most important stories, poignant stories, one of the most telling stories that shares how caring, compassionate this community is when in 2008, when the Oak Bay Mobile Home Park was being closed, and 38 families were losing their homes. Losing their homes because mobile homes that are over 30 years old could not be moved in the province of British Columbia. So when their leases were up, they would be gone. And that brought such an incredible cooperation because the town had to find the land. We had the land, it called 21 acres of lot 108, which is now where Forest Field is. It was going to be multiple of ballparks and multiple of playing fields, soccer fields. We had to get the cooperation of so many different organizations, so many different levels of government to make this happen. And so many people had to say it was the right thing to do. And it's my understanding that Ladysmith is the only town in the province of British Columbia, in the country of Canada, and I believe, except for one exception in the United States, that ever undertook as a community initiative the moving of people to ensure they had a home. My hat's off again to our town staff, because I was going to say they had to break a lot of rules, they had to change a lot of rules to make it happen. Anyway, it was the right thing to do. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for all you've done to make this a better community, and I'm grateful to call this our home. Doc, for 21 years, brought the lifesavers to the council. We needed it many times.
So I'm going to just adjourn the meeting from here because that was official. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Everyone? All in favor? Everyone? Thank you. Oh, anyone opposed? No one?
Let's have fun.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Oh, all in favor? Did I say that? I did. Okay. Thank you. People who are here for the reception are welcome to stay and join us. Appreciate anyone who came out for the meeting tonight. It started early, but it was so that we could be able to have this event. So thank you for coming and enjoy, everyone. Nice to see everyone here.